Good morning. Just going to wait for a few more people to connect. Can everyone hear me okay? Just pause. Yeah. Perfect. Okie dokie. Well, look, very grateful for everyone spending some time with us this morning. Be around 30 minutes or so in total. Presentation, around 20 odd minutes, just over. And obviously at the end, any questions should anybody have any. So I am going to jump right in. So let me share my screen. Everyone see that okay? Fab. Perfect. So this webinar is all about strategizing for seasonality in SEO. So this topic has come up in conversation with quite a few of our clients recently. So to us, it made sense to do a webinar on it and obviously spread the message and some of our ideas to a bigger audience. So first thing first, for those that don't know me, so I'm Rob, one of the directors at the Digital Maze. I've been in the industry since 2012 at this point, which would make it about 11 years. So 2012, I started an agency with my friend Liam, primarily in web design, and obviously since grown it into sort of what it is today with a series of mergers with other agencies and acquisitions and whatnot. But having been doing this for 11 years, it does mean I've been involved in all aspects of marketing. I'm a very data-driven guy, so you'll see in this presentation there's a lot of bits and pieces about data and how we can use data to inform our marketing strategies and decisions. And who we are, so we are the Digital Maze, as I mentioned, like I say, born out of the coming together of a few different agencies via acquisitions and mergers and whatnot, but that does mean we've got a combined sort of 20 plus years of history as a business. We're full service, we've got a team of, I think, just shy of 40 at this point, and our sort of mission is to facilitate change for our customers. So we like to blend data, and creativity, and we do that to reveal what we feel is the true capability of the clients we work with. And here's just a snapshot of some of the services we offer. So SEO, content marketing, pay-per-click design, web development, social media, and so on. And here is a snapshot of our clients, just so you know that not only can we talk the talk, we can walk the walk as well. So you might see yourselves on there. I can see some clients in the list that are tuned in today. Some big, some small, some e-commerce. But one thing I will say is a lot of our clients do have seasonality embedded within their business. So this is something that we've done a lot of, something we've thought a lot about, something we've dealt with over the years, and these are some of our best tips. So what are we going to cover? So what is it, and why is it different for every business? The impact of seasonality in SEO, how to identify holiday and seasonal behaviour, how you can optimize for seasonal SEO, and how big brands are handling it as well. So first things first, what is it? So there's two types of seasonality, not just in SEO, just in general. You've got time-based and event-based. So time-based is larger seasons within the year. So think things like garden furniture, which would typically be purchased around summer. Think lawn care in the lead up to summer. I think fitness would happen typically after Christmas, that January boom you get in all the gyms. And then you've got event-based. So event-based is things such as Halloween, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, and so on. So taking these into consideration, things we have to think about as marketers are things like how we plan our marketing and SEO activity around these seasonality events, how we support and navigate low seasons, how we keep an eye on search trends. Are they the same every single year? An example of this would be businesses that have a peak in the summer, for example. Well, summer and the UK is certainly getting hotter earlier on in the year, and it's getting hotter later on in the year as well. So is it the same every year? How do we spot those trends? And also ensuring that our marketing budget aligns with those seasonality plans. So from our experience of working with different marketing leaders, marketing directors, and so on, these are the things that we feel are often forgotten about. So obviously changes to data, having a business that peaks during certain months of the year doesn't mean that some months look significantly better than others, should we say. So when you are communicating this to wider stakeholders, it's important to emphasize that. The timing in which plans are implemented. So just because your peak season is July or June and July doesn't mean that all the marketing has to happen in those months. In our mind, there's a lead up to that. There's a period of planning that needs to take place. Changes to the website, again, the timing of when those changes have been made. Changes to the strategy as a whole, organising the resource ahead of time, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, communicating seasonality to any stakeholders that need to be informed. So first things first, how do I identify behaviour changes? So the first tool that I would recommend is Google Trends. Now, Google Trends allows you to see the interest of certain key terms over a period of time. So you can see here I've plugged in garden furniture. You can see sort of the interest starts to peak just before summer and then sort of veers off towards the end of the year, so we say. Flower delivery, you can see here, the dates aren't displayed that well, but actually where it peaks, just here, that's actually Mother's Day. So, flower delivery, all the sons, like myself, are sort of searching for flower delivery in the local area, and that's when it tends to peak. So with Google Trends, you can plug in any keyword you want. Obviously, this got to be backed by keyword research, which at this point I presume that you've already done. Plug those keywords into Google Trends, and you can organise that by the last 6 months, 12 months, 16 months. I would always recommend 12 months just to get a sort of good holistic view. And you can see when the interest starts to go up, when it starts to go down, and you can then use that to start to inform your strategy. And the strategy is what we're going to talk about as we get into this presentation. The second tool I'm going to recommend is SEMrush. So again, very, very similar to Google Trends. You can plug in your keyword. I've done here Christmas decorations, and it will show you on the trend graph when it peaks, when it doesn't peak, when it starts to creep up. So you can see sort of this is by month. So October, November, it's getting slightly higher. Obviously, December, it shoots right up. So again, using SEMrush and the trend graph, you can see when the interest in certain keywords, which I imagine would correlate to your service or product, when people are starting to search for that offering. Search Console, so we've gone from looking at things like Google Trends and SEMrush to look at when people generally are searching for these terms. We can now use Search Console to actually see when they are doing it with your website. So Search Console is your data. Again, you can filter by keywords, and we can see in the graph when people are actually coming to your website by searching these terms. So it's quite a good combination to have, obviously, the sort of general public, but also just correlating that and making sure it lines up with what's actually happening on your website is always going to be really important. And likewise, analytics, pretty much the same as Search Console in the way that it is your data. And again, you can't look at keywords in analytics. What we can do is we can go to your key pages. So you get a list of your pages, and it will show you in the graph like this when those pages are getting the most visits, the most interest, and so on. So how can we optimize for seasonal SEO? So if there's one thing that I would like people to take away from this presentation, it's timing and planning way ahead of time. So typically, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, but typically, let's say, as an example, you sell white goods, and white goods typically have a bit of a boom around sort of September, October time. The reason for that is because generally speaking, people want their kitchen done before Christmas, way before Christmas, so they can do their Christmas dinner, host people, so on and so forth. So typically around September, October time, retailers that sell white goods tend to have a busy period. Now, trend data would suggest that users start searching 2 months before a sort of particular busy period. So in this example, September, we can quite accurately say that around sort of July time, people start searching for those goods. So most marketers will think, okay, well, by September, I need to make sure that my areas of the website are up to speed and ready to start selling. But actually, people start considering the purchase way before people start buying it. So having your pages, your set of pages, your content optimized, ready, up, live, around 2 to 3 months before the busy period even begins and the sales data starts to flow in is super important, and something we see that goes missing quite a lot. And actually taking it one step further than this, we have to consider the time it takes Google to understand content as well, which can be anywhere from it can be quite quick, but actually it can take up to 3 or 4 months in some cases. So in this example, we've recommended that actually between the months of January and April, our recommendation is that we actually get everything ready and in place for, in this example, the September boom in terms of people coming to the website and actually making those purchases. So January to April, we're actually doing the groundwork, we're writing the content, we're adjusting the website, we're making sure it's up to scratch from a user experience point of view, so on and so forth. We're launching all that around April time, making some tweaks here and there, but between April and July, we're hoping that Google takes time to crawl the website, understand it, so on and so forth. And actually data suggests that around 2 months before people start buying is when people start visiting your website, start considering the purchases, looking at reviews, picking their options and so on and so forth. And at this point, hopefully you've got that brand buy-in, and then September you'll start to see that flow through to your bottom line. So you can see here that actually in most people's minds, if your busy period, for example, is Halloween, and that's October, it would make sense for your website to be ready for October, but actually it makes much more sense for it to be planned way ahead of time, even earlier than you might think. So if there's one thing I could ask you to take away from this presentation, it would be plan way ahead of time. Second way we can optimize is making sure we have our category and subcategory pages set up. So in this example, I'm talking about e-commerce websites here, of course, so our main category is garden table and chairs. Just making sure that, again, looking at that timeline from the previous slide, making sure that we've got things set up way ahead of time. So making sure you've got any subcategories that you'd like to have set up. So in this example, wicker garden tables, a really niche, more niche page than say garden table and chairs, but high intent. So if people are searching for wicker garden tables, you can be pretty confident that's exactly what they're looking for. And if you can offer that, then you're going to have a pretty high conversion rate. But also making sure that we've got any content that's going to branch off that in place as well. So our advice here is to do some research and look at what sort of questions are people asking about these particular seasonal products. So garden table and chair seasonal, expect that around maybe May, June time to be purchased. So people are going to start looking at that around maybe March, April. So looking at what people are asking. So what time of year to buy garden tables and chairs. If you have an article with that on your website, that traffic will flow to that page. You can then promote your garden tables and chairs, get your purchases that way. Again, people are asking about how to clean garden tables, for example. If you can offer that information, get people to your website via their research, get that brand buy-in, present your offering within those areas. Again, much higher rate of conversion for you. The other tip we have is keeping seasonal content live year round. So one of the questions we get quite a lot is, particularly for time-based seasonality businesses, so Halloween, Christmas, so on and so forth, shall we just take the Halloween area down at the end of October? And our answer to that is no. So our recommendation is to keep all the content, all the hard work you've done live, but just hide it from the menu for the time being. So it's much more difficult for people to navigate there on the website who are clicking around. But actually, over time, Google considers year over year, these pages that are kept live, they increase in relevance. They have the ability, if they're live, to gain backlinks, gain more authority, and obviously that specific content on the page could become useful at any time of year. We know this at this point. And Google considers those signals over the years, and each year your chances of being more visible get stronger and stronger. So if you were to keep that page live, you'll get all that benefit. If you were to take it down, you lose all that SEO equity, so to speak, and you have to almost start again from the very beginning when you do the work next year. So our advice would be to keep it live, make sure it can't be navigated to when people are clicking around your website in low seasons. Maybe update some messaging on there, so something around, if it's a sale, for example, Black Friday, check back next year. Offer them some other pathways as well. So I'm sorry you've landed on an area of the website that isn't active at the moment, but why don't you look at our so on and so forth, and you can again get them to navigate the website that way. Seasonal events such as Christmas, Halloween, Father's Day, Mother's Day is a really, really good time to be developing relevant, link-worthy, creative content. So as interest in these seasonal topics grow, so does the ability to produce a successful link-building campaign. So around these types of seasons, Christmas, Halloween, Mother's Day, Father's Day, so on and so forth, journalists, blogs, so on and so forth, they are on the lookout for relevant content. They're actively looking more at those times of year, and therefore our ability to produce that content, our ability to outreach it and actually get a successful rate of new links to the website increases. So we tend to have better success at these times of the year. So it's a really good time to do that. And I'm sure I don't have to explain, but getting links to your website, relevant links, high quality links, of course, not just any old link, is a fantastic way to boost your SEO equity on your website and boost that overall visibility. It's arguably the best tactic to improve the SEO on any website. So just a final word on this, as I mentioned, plan way ahead of time. Identify products and services at certain points. So you might have various different products and services that peak at different times of year. Our advice will be to have a mini strategy per product and service, which start at different times throughout the year based on when that peak period is going to be. Produce that content calendar 12 months in advance. Plan any link acquisition campaigns ahead of time. As I mentioned, really, really great way to boost that overall SEO equity on your website is by link acquisition campaigns, and it's a really good way to do it if you are a seasonal business. And as I mentioned, keep any seasonal pages live, even if they're not relevant the whole entire year. Keep them live and keep the URLs evergreen as well. So try not to, by evergreen I mean it's relevant at any time, any year, any time, any place. So by that I mean, in the URLs, try not to reference a date, for example. So what are the big brands doing? So I've got a couple of examples here I've found from my research. So the Range, you'll have seen the Range a couple of slides back, but the Range is a really good example of this. There's a Halloween area on their website, and actually they rank right at the top for things like Halloween decorations, as well as hundreds of other keywords. So you can only imagine how much revenue they're generating that time of year. But the page, going back to the categorization I spoke about earlier, having those questions hosted within that area that people might be asking, the Range do this really, really well. You can see on the left-hand side here, they've got all their subcategories: Halloween arts and crafts, make your own, sweets and chocolate. This is catering to everybody searching for these really, really specific search terms. But they've also got articles geared around what people are asking about Halloween. So gory Halloween recipes, I imagine these people are going to parties. Underneath that other screenshot, they've got guides to how to carve a pumpkin and so on. They've got 5 or 6 of these, and it's all adding relevance. It's adding to how useful that area of the website is to website users. And obviously that's what Google wants these days. It wants to produce the best results possible that's going to make the users engage, it's going to answer their questions, and so on. We can actually see that these hub articles, just going back to what we mentioned earlier about planning way ahead of time, we can see that these articles here actually started appearing around the January time from our research. I've done a bit of a Wayback Machine, which is where a tool we use where we can see when pages started to appear in websites. Did a bit of research, and I can actually see that these started to appear around January, February time. So the Range obviously are hot on this kind of stuff. They knew that they needed to get this content up nice and early to make sure that Google recognizes it and make sure all that equity is built up in time for that peak season, which obviously in this case is sort of September, October time. ASOS, another example. So they've got a women's winter essentials page set up on their website. Again, seasonal, winter. And they're ranking, as I mentioned, top as well for things like women's winter wear, women's winter essentials of women. Really, really high quality keywords. But overall, the page is really well structured. It's mobile friendly. It's incredibly user friendly as well. But more importantly, they've curated the content to match the user intent. And I don't know this for sure, but my guess is that they update this every single year, presumably in line with trends and what's fashionable, what's not fashionable. But interestingly, it's hidden from the main navigation in low season. So obviously, they're not going to promote winter essentials in the summer, of course. They've probably got a summer essentials page, but it is still available, and the content is refreshed annually. So this just sort of proves that keeping those seasonal pages live will add to the overall success of your website going forward. And eFlorist, again, ranking top for, in this case, Mother's Day flowers, as well as hundreds of Mother's Day related terms. Again, like ASOS, page well structured, it's mobile friendly, it's really user friendly as well. And they are curating the content yearly as well to match user intent. So again, believe it or not, there's actually trends with flowers. Some years flowers are more popular than others, so on and so forth. So we're updating that again to hopefully match user intent, to keep users engaged, which is obviously, again, going back to what Google want. That is what Google wants. It wants people to be engaged on websites, they want to answer the questions and so on. And this is also hidden from the main navigation during the low season, but available if it's found. So this Mother's Day page is actually available in July, but there is a clever message that says it's Mother's Day next year, feel free to come back or sign up to our newsletter, so on and so forth. So it is still live. What do our experts say? So we have a Slack channel at the Digital Maze. Slack is our sort of internal communication messaging platform. I just asked for some opinions. What are people's top tips for seasonality in marketing? Any type of marketing. First answer came from our head of web design, who is Mr. James Walsh, very talented web designer. He said it's tempting to go all out with seasonal graphics on top of your website or app when something is like Black Friday or Christmas rolls around. So just make sure that you're not compromising your established user experience by obscuring or changing important parts of your interface. So by this, it means you're not flashy red sale banners everywhere. That's fine. That's all well and good. It's eye-catching. But if it's going to come at the price of compromising your user experience, you're probably going to find that it's a hindrance to you, not a help. The worst example of this I can give is when I go on a website and there's snow falling down it. That is my pet peeve, unfortunately. SEO strategist, Rebecca. So if you're advertising for an upcoming seasonal sale, particularly for high-priced products, don't be alarmed if sales drop off in the run. People who waiting for the sale to begin to make their purchase. So this goes back to our point about people considering the purchase rather than purchasing it in the lead up. Really great tip from Rebecca. I think Rebecca had two, so she changed the name from Rebecca to Maurice, which is her cat, but this is, I guess, also Rebecca. Don't forget to include other channels like organic social media and organic email marketing to increase the chances of your seasonal sale being a success. So, our advice, whilst we're talking about SEO in particular here, your seasonal strategy should include all your different channels, and it should all work together collaboratively to generate the success that you guys want. And just for a bit of a laugh, I asked ChatGPT as well what their advice would be for seasonal SEO, and they said monitor and adjust. So continue to monitor your website performance during the seasonal period and adjust your strategy as needed to maximize results. Very generic from artificial intelligence, but what do we expect? But yeah, any form of marketing, in my opinion, is all about implementation, monitoring it, understanding the data, and adjusting based on what you've learned from that data. So final word, plan ahead of time. Remember, there is a consideration period before the buy-in period, so make sure you've got your website in line for that consideration period. Have a deep understanding of your customer's search behaviour, and you can use the tools that we mentioned at the start of this presentation. And ensure there is a content plan in place way ahead of time. That is me. That is the presentation. We'll have some questions in a moment. I have left a link here. It's not the easiest link to understand, so we'll distribute this via email at the end of the webinar. But if you do want to book a call and discuss this further, feel free to grab a pen and jot this down. I'm more than happy to spend some time with anybody, offer some ad hoc advice, free advice and whatnot. I love getting into the weeds of this kind of stuff. So if that does interest you, jot that down and we shall chat. So let me close this down. Is there any questions? Oh, there is 3. So, how far in advance would you suggest optimizing for a particular season? Would the timing be the same for every season? So obviously I've sort of addressed this in the presentation in terms of, typically there's a sort of 2-month consideration period. There's obviously a period of time, 1 to 3 months where Google's understanding your content, your newly added content. So that's a typical example. Is it the same for every season? Probably not. Can't say for sure, but no, is my answer there. I think your data, looking at your own Search Console data, looking at your analytical data, is going to give you the best chances of working out when to plan for your seasonality. But I would say a general rule of thumb is around 2 months of consideration and around 2 months for Google to understand your product. So if you work on a general rule of 4 months before your peak period, have your website in place to where you want it to be, I would say that's a good place to start. How do you keep page rank flowing to out of season pages? Black Friday, page ranks in March. So again, kind of addressed in the presentation, but keeping those pages live, keeping them linked as well. Like, it doesn't have to be in the main navigation, but obviously internal links adds a lot of value to different pages within a website. So just having them linked in your sitemap, having them linked in various places around the website, just not in the main navigation out of season, will add weight to that page. Obviously, if it's live anyway, there's always that chance that it's going to get linked to, just organically. People are going to link to different pieces of content. So obviously, if it exists, if it's there, there's a chance of that happening. So yeah, my advice there is to keep it live. Marcus, I guess some seasons want more obvious numbers. So how might you go about detecting less obvious seasons, perhaps more niche, smaller season, more strategy in terms of our? So I suppose so, yes. So some seasons are less obvious than others. Again, I think only data can really teach us that. I think I heard somebody internally speak about birthday cards. Birthday cards is actually seasonal, I'm led to believe. Although people have birthdays different time, all year long, but actually it is seasonal if you look at the data. So I would say really getting underneath your data, comparing. If you've got 5 years of data, and you lay them over the top of each other on a graph, you're going to see where them peaks are, you're going to see where them troughs are. If you can then filter that by different pages on your website, different areas on your website, if you lay the graph over each other, you're going to see them peaks and troughs, and I think that is probably the best way of doing that, for sure. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, really appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate you spending sort of half an hour of your hard-earned time with me this morning. I hope you found the presentation useful. It will be available to look back at. That will be distributed to you via an email at some point over the coming days. And yeah, hopefully I can see you all on future webinars. We are planning on doing more of these going forward. And yeah, once again, really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you, and see you again soon.